Hello, 613 students. My name is Dr. Amy Pantek, and I'm going to be your mentor for the semester. I'm really excited to be able to work with all of you, and I just wanted to go over with you some of the nuts and bolts of how this course runs. It is a little bit different than other courses here at McKendree. There's no weekly discussion board. There's no modules that you need to go through. This is a very independently run course, which basically means that it's all done on your time. Some important aspects that I wanted to review with you is let's go ahead and get into the Let's Get Started tab that you'll find over here in your left-hand column. And once you've accessed that, there's some information about this course, specifically content about the IRB committee. And in January 2019, we are going under the Common Rule, which means that many of your projects and your research may not require IRB approval. So familiarize yourself with the Common Rule. You can just simply Google it. You can also go on our IRB website. They should have some information up and running about that. And we are in the process of getting more information to our students. Our IRB committee is currently, as we speak, formulating some of the information for students regarding the Common Rule. So just be on the lookout for that. We'll update you as needed, but many projects and scholarly works that are done by our students may not require an IRB review because they fall under the Common Rule. So if on the offset that your project does require IRB approval, you will go through, everyone will submit the IRB form, which will occur after you submit certain documents to me. We'll talk about that in just a moment. But you'll go through the process. It just might be that your project or your study might be exempt because of the Common Rule. So there is one thing in particular that I want to bring to your attention. Our scholarly project guide has been revised as of December 2018. So if I have given you an old scholarly project guide, there are some similarities, but our director has revised and had given all of us a new version of the scholarly project guide. So please make sure that you access this document and stick with this new guide for your scholarly project. There is the syllabus for this course that you can find here, and then the rubric for your final paper is included in this Let's Get Started tab as well. The IRB template and checklist, these are two forms that you will need when you are orchestrating your IRB approval application. So there's an IRB checklist that every item on the IRB checklist must be checked before submitting to IRB, and the IRB review form must be completed as well. But before you submit to IRB, both of these documents will need to be submitted so I can review them prior to you submitting to IRB. That's a very important component because our IRB at McKendree only they meet weekly, but if there were any issues, say for example, a parameter wasn't addressed, they'll kick that back to you, and that only delays the IRB process even further for you. So once you have the IRB checklist completed and the IRB form is completed, those documents will go to me and they'll go into the assignments tab, and I'll show you where to drop those in just a moment. And then there are some exemplar documents that we've included for you. Sometimes our IRB committee requires you to get a form of approval from your institution. So if your institution does not have an IRB that will review your project or your study, then they need to submit a letter saying that your study has been approved. So there is a sample letter here. There's also some examples of an informed consent letter. as well as a debriefing letter. And so when you go for IRB, it's really important that, number one, you have an informed consent letter constructed for your participants, and number two, you have a debriefing document for your participants as well. And this debriefing is an important component that should there be any kind of physical or psychological or follow-up information that your participants may want, that's all included in this debriefing. Okay, so let's go ahead up to the assignments tab. And when you click on that, it's going to give you the timeline. So chapters 1 and 2, your draft is due here in this Dropbox by January 31st. Now, if you've already submitted your chapters 1 and 2 draft to me, like via email, go ahead and submit it here into this Dropbox as well. That opens up the gradebook, so that way I'm able to give you some feedback through your document. I can do like an inline grading, and then it alerts you that I've looked at this, and it just keeps everything in working order. And then that is, so again, that is due January 31st. February 15th, you'll notice the informed consent and debriefing documents and the IRB template form are both due. So again, before you submit anything to IRB, you must submit these documents to me, and then I will approve them, or I will ask you to make changes to them. And once those changes have been made and you resubmit it back to me, then you can submit to IRB. March 15th is when your chapters 3 and 4 are due. So when you think about submitting these forms, we're going to want to work on getting these done definitely by that February 15th deadline, so that way then once IRB has been given to you, the review process is finished, or you have been exempt, and you can begin your project or you can begin your research. You do that immediately, so that way it gives you enough time then to construct your final chapters of your scholarly project. So chapters 3 and 4, that draft is due by March 15th. And then the completed final paper is due, or the complete final paper draft is due April 1st. And then May 1st is the deadline for your completed scholarly project. Okay, so you really need to be hitting these dates. Don't go beyond the dates. It's only going to delay the process. So, this is really going to be an independently run course, but these deadlines are very strict deadlines. If you fall behind, it just delays, like I said, it delays your process. It can delay you graduating, and we really don't want to do that. And then, of course, at the very end, by May 9th, you will need to complete this MSN survey, and we can't actually release your grades for your 613 until you've completed this MSN survey. So my contact information is up here in the instructor tab. I can be reached by the office number, which I actually forward to my cell phone, or you can just contact me through email. So if you have questions, just email your questions to me. And then we do not have a discussion forum for this course, so I don't have a questions for instructor tab, for example. If you have questions, you email your questions to me, and that's how we will correspond with each other, is through email. If you need to get in touch with me and you want to do more of a face-to-face, I can meet with you. If you live in the area, we can certainly meet up face-to-face, or we can do FaceTime, or I can create a Zoom link and we can meet virtually that way. So I hope this helps. Again, this is not a course where you have to check in a couple of times a week. This is a very independent driven course. So as you submit things into the course, I do stick to the 1 week turnaround time. So so I'll be checking periodically, pretty frequently actually in this course, to see who submitted what and get those turned around to you. But like I said, any questions that you have in the meantime, don't hesitate to email me. And I hope that this was helpful and informative. And like I said, just try to get as much information as you can on your own about that common rule until we can get something publish for our students. But that's a really good thing to have this common rule. It's going to really alleviate a lot of the time where IRB does not have to review your project and you can get started right away. But you do have to go through that IRB process. We do have to get that permission from them that it does follow within common rules. So I hope this was informative, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks.